It remains one of the most beautiful and iconic parts of the Proctor neighborhood. It's the Cushman Substation, and it was designed to handle the power from both the Cushman No. 1 and Cushman No. 2 powerhouses over 40 miles away. The substation was constructed right here in the heart of the Proctor district, and as such, every effort was made to effect a design that was not only permanent and efficient in operation, but was also a piece of architecture and would harmonize with the surroundings. But how did it get here? And why was it so magnificent when it did? Well, for that, we have to rewind the clock a little bit. The year was 1917, and Tacoma was experiencing a population explosion and needed a new source of electric power to help meet the ever-increasing demands of new devices like washing machines, irons, and other domestic devices that were powered by electricity. Public Utilities Commissioner Ira S. Davison, the same genius who petitioned to have the USS Lexington come to Tacoma and serve as a generator during a particularly rough drought in 1929, selected the Lake Cushman site for a new hydroelectric complex. That is to say, they were looking to build a dam. The big problem with the Cushman facility, though, is that it is over 40 miles away from Tacoma. To bridge that gap and bring power to the city, they had to build over 44 miles of transmission line, all the way from Lake Cushman out by Hoodsport to Tacoma. When the transmission line across the Narrows was completed in 1925, the approximately 6,244-foot long span was the longest aerial electrical span in the world, with pairs of 315-foot tall steel towers supporting the cables that carried Cushman power across the Narrows to our fair city. Construction of these dams had a major impact on local tribes, in particular the Skokomish tribe and their fishing rights. But construction of the line went ahead anyhow. That line continued along North 21st Street until it eventually terminated right here at the Cushman Substation. Work began on the iconic Cushman Substation, featuring the all-too-famous steel windows and buffed concrete, which was a clever design that essentially took poured concrete and then buffed it until it was smooth enough to resemble sandstone. This structure has remained one of the crown jewels of the Proctor neighborhood ever since. By March of 1926, there was sufficient water in the Lake Cushman Reservoir to begin producing power. The 44-mile-long transmission line, which concluded in the Cushman area, began powering the substation on March 23, 1926. At the formal dedication held in May, the current from the dam was turned on in Washington, D.C. by President Calvin Coolidge using a key made by Lincoln High School students, which included gold from a Northern Pacific Railroad souvenir spike. The Cushman substation provided power continuously for the city of Tacoma until an increase in demand caused the city to reevaluate their plans. In 1949, the transmission line was rerouted from Cushman Substation to the Pearl Substation. Today, the Cushman Substation remains open, and inside are stored some of the original pieces of machinery that were used to step down that electricity. One of the fascinating designs of this structure was the insulated concrete walls, and yes, the tunnels. All of that electricity would rush into this building through the subterranean tunnels and then go through equipment known as busing, which was installed on these concrete shelves all along the walls. The shelves contained these long copper pieces known as copper bus and would go all the way out into the yard. There are 3 of these tunnels underneath the Cushman substation, but the entire building has conduit chambers all throughout. While its new purpose is not yet determined, the future of the Cushman substation is all but guaranteed. Now that it's on the historic register, this building isn't going anywhere and can remain an iconic part of the Tacoma cityscape for years to come. But before a new path can be chosen for it, it's important to consider its illustrious past. It once kept us with power. Now it's our turn to determine, how do we keep the lights on?